When you will, you grit your teeth or clench your fists. When you endure or control yourself, you pull yourself together physically, and therefore you get uptight.
Today we are in a Bentley Flying Spur with the W12, basically £200,000 worth of absolute, pure, unadulterated luxury. Now, let me talk you through this car. This one is the W12 engined one. You can get it in 3 different guises. So you can have it as a 6-cylinder PHEV, which is the same engine that's in the Bentley Bentayga Hybrid that I drove a while ago. If you haven't seen that film, go and watch that. And obviously, make sure you subscribe and do all of the other lovely things like clicking the buttons and all that kind of stuff. Or you can have the twin turbocharged V8 engine, which is a lovely engine, has a lovely thrum. That one was in the Bentley Continental GTC film that I did last summer. And this one is the first W12 car that I've driven. And obviously it is the biggest one they have, and it really suits the character of the car. I think the V8 is the one I would probably choose myself, just purely because it's a lovely halfway house. But this W12 is a tower of power. It is ridiculously fast for something that weighs 2.4 tons. It does 0 to 60 in 3.7 seconds. It has 635 horsepower and is just, you put your foot down and you just ride this wave of unbelievable power. It also, dynamically, it goes round corners so much better than it should, and so much better than physics should allow it. It's ridiculous. It's got lots of different modes. So it's got the Bentley mode, which we're in now. It then has the sport mode, it has the custom mode, and it has a comfort mode. I have it in the Bentley mode because, as always with a Bentley, that's where Bentley think that this car is at its optimum. So I always leave it in that. The sports mode is incredible. It stiffens up the anti-roll bars, it stiffens up the suspension. It feels alive and it feels very, very fast. This is a 4-wheel drive car, but most of the time you have rear-wheel drive until you start getting a little bit of slip in the rear and it sends some power to the front. So it does actually feel rear-driven to me when you're hustling it a little bit. Not that this car is something that you would necessarily want to hustle. This is for pottering around, not slowly, but it's for pottering around at a normal speed in absolute comfort. That's how I view this car, and it sort of has this massive W12 6-litre W12 engine just because it can. Just because if you're spending 200 grand on a super luxury limousine, you want it to have a massive amount of power, and this one does. The brakes, they are enormous. They stop this car with plenty more performance to go. The fuel consumption. Now, this is one of the reasons why I would probably choose the V8, twin turbocharged V8, over the W12, just because it's a good halfway house between the two, as I said earlier. This W12, now, I've been out in it, it's 509 miles on the trip, 13 hours of driving, it's averaging 20.8 miles to the gallon, which is not a lot. It has a 90-litre tank, and it says on there, when you're driving it, it says it'll do 420 miles to a full tank. That is a lie. It will do less than that, but I'm sure if you tickle it away, and you can probably whip it up to about 25 miles to the gallon if you're lucky. If you go anywhere near the throttle, it plummets. Whereas the V8, I think you could probably get that up to nearer the 30 sort of mark, which is why I would choose that car. What do we think of the looks of the exterior of the car? I think, well, let's be honest, the front of the car is, it just shouts, get out of my way, doesn't it? You come up behind someone, you go near someone, and they immediately see this massive, great big front grille and the flying bee on the front that rises elegantly out of the bonnet. If someone tries to steal it, it's the coolest thing in the world. If someone tries to steal it or do something with it, it fires down into the bonnet really, really quickly so no one can rip it off the front, because it's like a little piece of jewellery extended out at the long bonnet. And it's just one of those tiny little things that make you feel, well, special, if I'm totally honest. And that, at the end of the day, is what this Bentley Flying Spur is all about. It's making the occupant feel special, and it does it absolutely just brilliantly. The rear of the car, I like the way it slopes back. To me, it reminds me of a very expensive boat or something, because this is a vast piece of metal. It is a very, very big car. And you've got the enormous sort of slab, great big grille at the front, and then the lovely chintzy lights that literally look like they're full of diamonds or Swarovski crystals or whatever it is. They sparkle in the sunshine, and then when you turn them on, they are dazzling, and at night, they're incredible. And the adaptive lights cut out the car in front of you and, you know, light up the road beyond the person in front of you without dazzling them in front. There's one little gripe that I've got with it, but it may just be this car individually, I don't know. It's quite sluggish on the throttle response when you're moving it around. So you sort of go for the throttle, you give it a little bit too much, and then it fires up and shoots forwards. It can be quite sort of cumbersome to move around slowly. But other than that, that is the only thing that I can find that I don't like about it. The interior. Now that's where it becomes even more special. The fit and finish in this Bentley Flying Spur is second to none. It is just, I cannot understand how they do this so perfectly. The rotating screen, which is an enormous expensive extra, it's about £5 extra to have the rotating screen, which you can have a stopwatch, a clock and a compass and all of that bump. But in there, the way they've lined it up, so millimetre, like oh, it's so clever. Whoever built it is a master of coachwork. The leather in here, as everyone knows from loads of other people that have talked about these, the leather in here, it takes many, many cows to trim a Bentley Flying Spur. And this one is no exception. The cows that are used for Bentley are all bulls, not heifers, because then they don't get stretch marks. They're also kept in fields that have no barbed wire, so they don't snag on the barbed wire. So the leather is absolutely perfect in every single way. Each stitch all over the car is millimetre perfect. It knocks Aston Martin into a cocked hat. I'm really sorry to say that, but it really does. All of the things in here are typically Bentley. You've got your driver display in front of you and your cockpit, and you know, it just works brilliantly well. The steering wheel, as always, the buttons on here are very Audi A4, but obviously being part of the VW group, you're going to get a couple of things that, you know, come over from Audi and other places. The stereo, the name stereo, which is about a £6,500 option, is alarmingly good. It is alarmingly good. You can turn it all the way up and it is crisp the whole way through all the dynamic ranges that come in a stereo. I know nothing about music, by the way, if you can tell, but it sounds amazing to my ears. If you own one of these, either you've bought it to drive it yourself and drive it in absolute comfort, or you bought it for a man called Jeeves to drive you around in it. The back seat. Now, I have to say, in the back, it's almost better than being in the front, if I'm honest. So what you've got in the back here, you've got legroom to spare. I mean, I'm only 5'8", and I have at least that much sort of space to the front seat, and the front seat is pulled back quite far anyway. You've then got this centre console here, which then has it's got a champagne fridge. Look at that! And you can get the glasses and the champagne to go with that. Obviously, Bentley PR haven't sent me any champagne. I shall be having words with them about that. There is an amazing little screen down here as well, which you can eject. Pull out, it's all knurled on the back, and then you can pull that out and I can do all sorts of different things with this. I can change the radio, I can turn up the stereo, I can do anything. I can do the climate in the front, the climate in the rear. It's like a lovely, lovely piece of jewellery. I'd definitely lose that, but it is just beautiful. We're driving along now at sort of 40 miles an hour, and it is so comfortable in the back of here. I can recline the seats, I can move them forwards, I can do all sorts of stuff in the back. I can have a massage. It's just, I can look at myself if I want to, and a lovely little mirror on here. It's so smart. The dual clutch 8-speed gearbox that is twinned to this W12 is snap sharp. absolutely bob on. It really is. I mean, I very rarely have used the paddles. I only use the paddles really to hustle it past someone when I need to get somewhere or whatever. For something that is so big and so heavy, has such a sporty gearbox, it's very, very good. Honestly, there's certain things about this car that I wanted to not like. I wanted to think, oh, it's just a, you know, it's just a load of money because someone can afford it, etc., etc. It isn't. There is a level of luxury and a level of comfort in this car that is unrivaled in others. We're in the middle of, well, we've had 3 different storms over the 3 days that I've had this car, and it's blowing an absolute gale outside at the moment. Can you tell? Genuinely, can you tell? I can't tell. The triple glazed windows are keeping me absolutely cocooned from everything outside of the car. It's just, it's a triumph of luxury engineering. It really is. And you put your foot down flat, and off we go. If you have a couple of $100 to go and spend on a luxury limousine, and you don't want an S-Class Mercedes, or you don't want a Rolls Royce, or you don't want anything else, this has got to be where your money goes. I'm sure it will depreciate like a stone, because all Bentleys seem to do so. But if you are someone that does not care, because let's be honest, if you're going out and spending $200, you know, they start at 163, I think this one's 177, they go all the way up to about 230 with all the extras that you can put on it. If you're spending that sort of chunk of change on a vehicle to get yourself around, who cares about the depreciation? Go and try a Bentley Flying Spur and it will knock your socks off. Mark my words.